about twists. We're going to do some twisting practices. And the word in Sanskrit to twist is pavrita. So that kind of starts a lot of the names of the postures. And the word means to turn toward. So, it's not just about revolving or twisting, but to actually turn your attention and your intention towards something. And yesterday I talked a little bit, if you were here, I talked a little bit about intentions. And I think it's really important to hone your intentions in movement, that they're moving toward instead of trying to move away from. So a lot of times our unconscious intentions are like, I'm going to avoid this because history has taught me that this is not an okay thing for me. So we turn away from, and really the essence of a twist, of a turning the word is that we're turning toward and not turning away. And this, I think, is significant in some ways. When we set our intentions that we're inviting, that we're bringing something forth within us and we're turning towards something, is a very different kind of energy than trying to run away or get away from something that's behind us, to turn away from. So just little food for thought as far as semantics go and kind of how you think about how you set intentions. So physically, in our twisting practice, some of the things that you want to think about, the whole thing, we're not going to only do twists, but a little bit of an emphasis on some twisting postures today. And a lot of times twists can bother people's backs. So I just want to talk a little bit about the anatomy and, just the logistics of how to go about twisting. When your vertebrae, you have your two vertebrae with a disc in between. And as we age, our discs shrink. So when we're 20 years old, our discs are 80% water. And when we're 80 years old, our discs are 20% water, which is why we tend to shrink a little bit as we get older. And so the cushioning, that padding, that shock absorption that is built in starts to diminish. And the other thing that can happen as we age is the body of the vertebrae can start to honeycomb a little bit and not be as dense and strong. Like a lot of our bones, they can get a little weaker as we age. And so we want to weight bear in order to keep that strength within our bones. But we also want to be very careful. So between those two forces of having just slightly weaker bodies as well as less compressive force with the discs, twists inherently start to get a little bit more vulnerable in the body. So whenever you're doing twists, horizontal twists, like when you're lying down, gravity's coming down on the spine like this. And so the compressive forces are not nearly as great upon the spine. When you are standing, the compressive forces are the most intense, or sitting rather, the compressive forces are the most intense. And then standing, it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing a standing twist, where you're just standing up and twisting, this is not, this is easier usually because our body can move in a solid unit, whereas when we're sitting, our pelvis is down on the ground. And so the capacity to hold those forces differently is less. And then the other thing about standing twists, like doing, this kind of twist, you're actually not in a vertical plane. You may not be in a totally horizontal plane, but you're in a semi-horizontal plane. So those aren't as hard on the spine either. So seated twists are the most straining and difficult for the body. So if you do struggle with vertebral issues, seated twists are where you want to be really careful and maybe even omit and change and do something on your back or standing if you really feel the forces upon you. So the next thing I wanted to say about it is that in order to create that space, even if you're starting to shrink a little bit, which, you're over 20, you are starting to shrink a little bit. So we want to lengthen the spine, right? We want to create that length as much as we can so the discs that we have are spacious and our vertebrae have lots of room to maneuver instead of being smushed on top of each other. So creating length in your spine is one of the primary things you need to think about before you twist. And then I've said this lots, but I'll say it again. Let me move back so you can see my knees. When you put pressure of a bone on a bone, like a twist like this, the forces of our bone pressure is stronger than what our bodies usually want to accommodate in the twist. So whenever you're using leverage for twisting, you have to be super duper careful that you're not overbearing the twist. So you want the twist to come from a long spine and from your exhales. So when you exhale, your obliques, that are your twisting muscles in your core, along with other muscles too, but those are your primary twisters. When those work they work best on your exhales. So using your exhales and the core strength to turn you, it will be a much more accurate, honest, and healthy representation of how far you should go in your twisting practice than just leverage and force. So just be mindful of all of those things while we're practicing today. Okay, so close your eyes and think about your intentions around what are you turning toward instead of what are you turning away from. Close your eyes and just take a moment to, hone that just a little bit, to lift your heart and your mind into the energy of looking toward, turning toward. Let's take some deep, full breaths. Come into this moment. So even looking toward something can step us away from the presence. So maybe even drop that and just be here now. Feel a sense of surrender through your eyes, through your jaw, relaxing all through your skull. Bubble around your head if you need to. Just find some places of softness. Allow your brain to shrink away from the bones, not in a contraction, but in a melting away. When you feel softness coming, start to bring the breath into those soft places. What does it feel like to breathe deeply, to breathe fully? That the breath is, the diaphragm is dropping down, the rib cage is expanding, that you have all spaciousness and capacity for breath. Can you feel the back rib cage and how it moves? Can you feel the breath touch the back rib cage? Start to come into awareness of your belly as you're breathing. And how your abdominal muscles have this concert with your diaphragm to aid the breath. Your breath doesn't go into your belly, but your belly displaces a little bit. All your organs displace a bit to give room for more lung capacity. So just feel that ebb and flow through your core. And start to feel the bony structures of your spine, or of your vertebrae. See if you can feel, maybe starting at the tailbone, and feel as you rise up the spine, if you can create just a little more cushion, a little more space in between each vertebrae. Plump up your discs, give them some juice, even if it's only in your mind. Allow that sense of the vertebrae perfectly aligned, and I don't mean in a straight line. I mean they're perfectly situated for the way we need shock absorption in our body. So feel the curves. How can you feel lightness of being where you don't have to ramrod yourself upward against gravity, but you're also not allowing the sink, the collapse. So yielding comes here too, where we use the energy of the earth to lift away from, but we're also relaxed and not stiff and pushing against gravity like it's a stiff wind. So experiment with that in your body, feeling the padding of your discs, the juice, they're fluid. So feel that your discs have fluidity in them. Feel that you can float on those watery discs. And then notice we've been sitting for a bit, so notice where is tension? Where do you feel pain when you sit for a while? So kind of examine the parts of your spine, your back muscles, whatever it is that you feel a little tender, and maybe need to come into some understanding how to support yourself. Okay, let's place our hands together at our heart and bow in. Set an intention. What are you moving toward? And let's release the hands and come onto our back. Okay, so come lie down. And see if you can feel that sense of difference between when you were just sitting and now on your back, and how the discs have a different force upon them. Can you feel gravity change its course? Can you feel that your spine has a chance to spread out, your vertebrae have a chance to spread out, that the discs no longer have so much bearing down upon them? And enjoy the space that you create there. Okay, so let's stretch your arms. Maybe you want to yawn. Maybe you want to hold your breath. Whatever is comfortable for you, do. Okay, and let's just take a moment. Stretch the left side, stretch the right side. Don't worry about your hips staying stable. Go ahead and stretch your legs so that your hips come offline. And then stretch the other leg. So you just feel the sense of mobility that you have. And then relax your arms in and bring your knees to your chest and rock a little bit. Let this be very soothing, I hope, for your spine, especially after sitting for a little bit. This is a great place to kind of work out any kinks that were left over from tension patterns if you aren't always so comfortable sitting. All right, right knee into the chest, left leg long on the floor. Feel your spine extend here. So lengthen and broaden the space. Roll out your toes, wiggle out your ankles, just find some feet. Find your breath. See if you can notice the breath traveling along your spine. All right, and then release that leg, other knee into the chest. Stretch your feet. Keep working through the ankles and the calves. Notice where your knee is most comfortable. Do you need to bring it out a little to the side or closer in toward the midline? Where's your sweet spot for the pocket of your hip compression? All right, and then bring both knees into the chest one more time, some rounding. Okay. Circle out the knees, open the hips. So pull the knees away from each other and then swing them back in. Just find that range of motion in your hip joints. All right, and then let's move in some starfish movements. So stretch arms and legs wide on the floor, lengthen your body. Exhale, knees in, maybe your head comes up. Let's do that a couple of times. Inhale, open your spine, open your limbs. Exhale, hug everything in. One more time. Breathing out. Exhale, breathing in. All right, let's roll over onto your side and come up onto your hands and your knees. So before we start moving in cat-cows, feel that gravity still has that horizontal nature, that we're not compressive by being upright, but we are having that long spine. So let the femur bones draw back. This is another way that we can help accentuate the length of our spine. And we're just gonna go back into child's pose and forward a few times. And just notice what happens when you anterior tilt the pelvis a little bit and come back up, just getting into the compression. So anterior tilt the pelvis means tailbone up. Okay, so a little bit of femur bones back, draw back into child's pose like that. And then notice the difference. Now round the spine so the tailbone kind of tucks under. I can't even believe I said those words, tuck your tailbone, but try it for a moment and stretch back. And you may feel more length through your fascia in the back body, but this is actually quite straining at times for the back
to go into a posterior tilt and drop back. So just notice, do you like this? Does this feel straining on your back? One more time, tuck the tail and stretch back. And so in child's pose, you're not going to do any, it's not harmful to do one or the other. Now come back, anterior tilt the pelvis, not so much where you over exaggerate the arch in your low back, but feel the natural curve and come back. Now when you settle into child's pose, notice if your spine just has a little bit more freedom, if there's just a little bit more capacity that I can move in any direction when I'm in this slight anterior tip. Come back up one more time, round, tuck the tail, come back, and notice if your spine has possibility, your low back has possibility for movement here. So, part of that anterior tilt of the pelvis is to give freedom to the spine for the possibility of where we're going. Go ahead and come up onto all fours. Again, now start moving any way you want to move. So some cat-cows, some swirls, some twists, some turns, anything that feels right in your body. All right, and then find your way up into dog pose when you're ready. Curl the toes under. Now our legs get to be involved too, so feel free to move around here. You can pedal your heels, you can bounce a little bit, you can sway, anything that's helping you wake up and get all the soft tissue, your fascia, your ligaments, your tendons, your muscles, all waking. Feel a sense of length through your spine here. So imagine that you had a strap across the very tops of your femur bones, reaching your thighs back. So let the thigh bones move way back, like there's hands on them, pulling them back. Soften the knees. Feel the spaciousness through your spine. The discs have lots of room. All right, come back down onto all fours. Come back down into child's pose. Remember, just find your sweet spot. So did you, I bet the neutral anterior tilt feels best, but maybe not. Everybody's different. Okay, let's walk the hands over to the left side. Open the right rim of the body. See if you can pay close attention to the space between your ribs and your pelvis. Getting a lot of room here. Of course, your rib cage will expand, and let yourself breathe into that. And then come back to center and walk over to the other side. Dropping weight down into the hips. Make sure you're breathing. Find that little gap between the ribs and the pelvis. Open up there. And then come back to center. Up onto all fours. Find any movement in the spine. Our first twist that we're going to do. Inhale, reach the right arm up in the air. Exhale, and slide that shoulder down. Find the length of your spine. Take the femur bones back like we did in dog pose. Find your breath. See if you can practice the art of exhaling on your twists. Twisting on your exhales. Sorry. Inhale to lengthen the spine. Exhale to twist. Inhale, lift that arm all the way back up. Place the hand down onto the ground and change sides. Lift the arm. Slide that shoulder down. Gaze toward the floor, a little pressure of your hand into the ground, femur bones back. Deep breath in and away. Feel the twist come on the exhale. And then inhale, reach that arm all the way up to the sky, and then place it down. Dog pose. Extend the spine, femur bones back. Feel all the room in between your vertebrae. Relax your head, find your breath. And then let's walk forward. Come into Uttanasana. Bend your knees, bobble your head around, wag your tail, move your shoulders. What feels good? What kind of movement do you want to do in your body here? Inhale for a halfway lift. Palms of your feet and palms of your hands are broad. And exhale and melt back down. Okay, one more time. Halfway lift. As you hold on, everybody grab onto the tops of your thighs instead of your shins. Soften your knees so you're not hyperextended. Press the tops of the thigh bones back and elongate the spine. Then release and come back down again. Push off your feet, rise up, reaching the arms. Maybe a little bit of a back bend feels good in your body, maybe it doesn't. So just find what feels right for you. Maybe you're busy just trying to get your blood pressure back up. Okay, so just find your practice. Tuck in, inhale, rise up, and then exhale and fold. Inhale for a halfway lift. Spine grows, femur bones back. Exhale and melt toward the floor. Grab your blocks if you have them. Let's warm up our legs a little bit. So come with your right foot forward and your left foot back. Finding a lunge. Let's start moving. So enjoy both the extension of the hip flexors of the back leg and the extension of the hamstrings of the front leg. Let the chin tuck in. Take care to make sure that the stretch is moving hopefully into your spine too, not just into your legs. Keep moving and breathing. All right, and then come into a lunge. You get to decide whether you want to put your back knee down or whether you want to have your back knee up. I'm going to put my knee down just so it gives me a little better access sometimes to my core when I'm more stable. So come on up, and we're just going to wake up the obliques here a little bit. So you're going to get a good stretch in the hip flexors as you turn. But instead of putting leverage of your arm on your knee somewhere, lightly put your hands on your thigh and use your exhales. Wake up those muscles. Inhale, long spine. Exhale, twist. Inhale, long spine. Exhale and twist. And then come back to center. Reach the arms. You can have your back knee off the ground or up, whatever feels good. And then release the hands down onto the ground. Back foot comes forward. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Let's step our left foot forward, right foot back. Extend through the spine, start to move. Squaring hips, tucking chin, making sure you're breathing. Making sure you're moving. Try not to be static just yet in our holding. Let the body be dynamic to warm up. All right. And then the next time you get to a lunge, you decide whether you want to have your knee up or your knee down. Hug into the midline with your thighs so you're not just collapsed. Feel the extension, very light on your hands, on your knee. So you can really feel the length of your spine. It's such a gentle twist. We're not going very far, right? So wake up the obliques. See if you can access the side bodies to do the twisting for you on your exhales. Every inhale, the spine grows. Create that space. Every exhale, twisting it gently. And then come back. Reach the arms to the sky. You can be knee up or knee down. Extend, open yourself up. And then release your hands down onto the ground. Come back into a plank or knees down onto the ground, whichever is good. So let's wake up our core here. Take a deep breath in and away. Feel the length of the spine, the extension. Can your inhales lengthen you? Can your exhales compress your belly? Okay, we're going to put our knees down, and we're going to bring our forearms all the way to the ground. We're going to come up into a forearm plank, but let me show you this from the side. We're going to do a very slight movement. So in a forearm plank, we're going to twist here. So just dropping one hip and then dropping the other. If you need to have knees on the ground to do this, walk your knees further back and do the same thing. It's not quite the same, but it'll just start to wake up the obliques of your body. So find your breath, however you're getting into that posture with knees up or down. And this doesn't have to be a giant thing, right? Like we don't have to feel like we're turning our whole torso to the side. You're just trying to wake up the center of the body to do the movement of twisting for you. See if you can keep, a lot of times when we twist, we try to keep our pelvis stable, But now our stable part is our chest. So see what it feels like to keep the collarbone spreading, the sternum eye facing the floor as the hips do the moving. Are you breathing? All right, and then come all the way down to the floor. Whatever feels nice. If you need a very gentle back bend, try taking your forearms in the front of you a little bit and just rising up. Lynn, this might be a good one for you if you're starting to experiment with any back bending. And then release and come down. If you want something deeper, one more time, let's come up. Find the breath. Exhale and come down. Pick up the feet and windshield wiper the legs. Let there be ease in your back. And then if you're comfortable here for just a moment, and if you're not, you can try putting a blanket under your pelvis. That might help. I just want you to feel the breath. So notice the epicenter, kind of like mid-low back area. Breathe through your spine. So as you inhale, feel the ripple travel to the sacrum and to the crown. And as you exhale, retreating back to that spot. And just feel the fluid nature of the movement of your vertebrae, the movement of your discs while you breathe. Feel how responsive your discs and vertebrae are to something as simple and profound as breathing. So we have a lot of adaptability in our spine to accommodate all sorts of things. It's kind of beautiful. Our spines are kind of amazing. And then come back up onto all fours. That might be a little too much of laying on your belly. So swirl some things around, do some cat-cows. Maybe find an anterior tilt into child's pose to relax the spine. When you're ready, go ahead and come back up, dog pose. Imagine the strap on the thighs, lengthening through your spine here, deepening your breath. Inhale, lift your right leg up in the air. Exhale and bring that foot forward, come to a lunge. Extend through your spine before you come upright. Feel the length here. Stretch your arms back behind you. Still feel the length through your spine. Engage through your core, finding the breath. Triceps are a little higher than your back. Engage your rhomboids, heads of the arm bones lifting. And then come up with your arms back like this. Find the extension through your body. Try not to sink into that spot in the low back that the breath originated from. Reach the arms up to the sky, and we're going to twist open here. Let the obliques do the work. So don't worry about moving your arms. Take your arms wherever is comfortable, and let the core of your body do your twisting for you. Breathe. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, twist. Inhale, bring your arms back up. Feeling the extension through your spine, place the hands down onto the ground. You might want your blocks. If you have them, walk your back foot in some. So the hips are square. You can take your right foot out to the side as much as you want. You can put the blocks on any height that you want. You can even stack them on top of each other so that you feel that your spine has so much room, so much space. Feel the femur bones drawing back, especially the right one. Take the head of the femur bone deep into the hip joint. Root into the feet, extend the spine. Inhale, climb up, arms to the sky. Same thing, a little bit of a twist here with our legs straight. Find the breath. So now gravity's coming down on us just a little bit more, but we're a little more open than seated, so just feel what that feels like. Are your core muscles doing the work for you? Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, twist. Inhale, bring your arms back up. Exhale, bring your hands onto the floor, hop up onto one leg, stretch that leg straight back behind you. Engage your glutes strongly, wake things up. Find the core support here and lengthen your spine. Exhale and place your foot down next to your other foot. Halfway lift, thigh bones back, knees soft, spine long. Exhale and float, melt yourself. Feel that the spine becomes like a waterfall. Bend your knees as much as you can so the anterior tilt of the pelvis happens. Pass your pubic bone between your thighs. Lift the sit bones and let the spine cascade down. Deep inhale, deep exhale. Step back to dog pose. Lengthen the spine again, femur bones back. Enjoy all the room. Inhale, left leg up in the air, hips are square. Take a deep breath in. As you exhale, bring that foot forward, come into a lunge. Get your feet where you want them to be. Rise only a little bit, take your arms back behind you. So we're staying low, we're not all the way up yet. Triceps are higher than spine, heads and the arm bones reaching up, feel the back body, and then support the front body into the back body strength. Deep inhales and exhales. Is your spine growing? Can your core support the spine? And then come on up, arms back. Open the chest, try not to push into a back bend here. Use your core to lift the pubic bone toward the navel. And then when you're ready, reach your arms up to the sky, and we're gonna twist here. Feel the core hug onto the spine. Imagine that feeling that you have this kind of airbag effect against your spine with your core to help you twist. Feel the inhales lift the spine, the exhales do the twisting. Don't let your body get caught up in how far you want to be, just be where you are. Still hugging into the inner thighs. And then reach the arms back up. Place the hands down onto the blocks. Walk your back foot in. Shorter stance here. Reach the right hip back, the left hip back. The left big toe mound stays rooted and grounded. Feel the inner spiral of your thighs. Feel the pubic bone pass through your thighs just a little bit, that little bit of anterior tilt. And just notice, do you have better access by lifting your sit bones? Do you have better access by moving your pubic bone? Like, where do you have better mobile awareness in the pelvis? Feel the spine grow. All right, and then we're gonna come on up. Stay in your shorter stance. Reach the arms to the sky. Let this be an intention of upward energy, spaciousness, and then twist. Feel the inner spiral of your thighs. Try not to let your legs fall apart when you're twisting. Feel your obliques. Your exhales come from your core. Inhale into the length of your spine. Okay, great. And then inhale, reach the arms back up. Place the hands down onto the ground. Hop up onto that one leg. Hands on blocks or the floor, square the hips, so try not to let the hip lift, keep it square, extend the spine. Feel the vertebrae separate away from each other, the discs, give them some plumping up. So, imagine you have like a bike pump where you're filling with air, fill your discs with some space, some fluid. All right, and then put your foot down next to your left foot. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale and melt back down. Okay, we're gonna come all the way to the floor for a moment. I meant to do this earlier, sorry Mickey, but get back down onto the ground. So we're gonna be on our back for a moment. Feel that sense of the spine spreading out. Bring your knees to your chest for a minute, just have some rocking. And we're just gonna do a little bit of core work here. So we're gonna do two different things. First, arms out to the side like a T, palms facing up. The knees are going to stay bent. I want you to be really careful to not overpower what your obliques are capable of. So, you don't want to have to recruit a whole bunch of different muscles to support yourself in this. You can either flex your feet or relax your feet, whichever is going to help you. And we're just going to drop the knees over to the right as we try to imagine that our left side is not wanting to go that direction. So we're having two oppositional forces, knees right, chest left. And then back up and go the other side. Knees left. Allowing the right rib cage to try to settle toward the floor. All right, now you can go as fast or as slow, transitioning left and right in this. But I want you to feel that ringing out, where you're going in opposition. The internal and external obliques on either side are finding opposition to each other. So let's find all four of those muscles. Really working hard to stabilize you. So don't let your knees go too far. See if you can keep stable on the floor. And, you get to experiment how far over your knees go where you're still able to support yourself, where you're not you'll know it when you go too far. If you go too far, your back might arch, you might kind of lose your stability through your rib cage. So you find where that boundary line is for you. Make sure you're still lengthening the spine. Make sure you're breathing. All right, so let's end with our knees going out the second way. I think it was left. For me, it was left. And then bring your knees into your chest. Okay, rock around a little bit. Find some nourishment. Now, maybe put your feet on the ground. Notice how your body received that work. So if you're vulnerable, then maybe that's enough for you. But if you feel stable and strong, we're going to work with another one. I'm going to hit my feet against that. So we're going to interlace our hands behind our head. Decrease your history imprint of high school sit-ups. Let it go. This is a pillow for your head, not a cranking machine for your elbows. Okay, so we're going to bring our knees into the chest. The legs come up straight. You can always do this with knees bent if legs straight is too much for you. Take a deep breath. We're going to drop our right foot, lift our right chest. Remember, our hands are a pillow, and then come back up and back down. So the feet are not going to touch, and you get to go as far in the twist as you want. If you're doing this with your knees bent, your leg just straightens out as you come into the twist. So remember, our elbows are not our force of pulling. We want our elbows to, our hands to be a pillow, and really let the chest be the originator of the movement instead of the elbow. So, try to keep to the core of the body instead of the limbs of the body being the primary movers. Let the core of the body be the primary movers. Extend the spine. Feel your breathing. I have no idea how many you've done. Okay. Are you able to rest your head in your hands? Are you having your knees bent? Or are you starting with your legs straight? Just doing some deep work for the obliques. All right, and then when you're ready, put your head back down, grab onto your knees, and rock a little bit. Now, the last action, twists are responsible for, the obliques are responsible for twisting, but they're also responsible for side bending. So we're just going to wake them up a little bit in this direction too. So hands back underneath the head. Feel like you have your pillow. We're going to hover. So you're just going to lift a little bit with your shoulders off the floor. Find a movement of drawing your elbow toward your hip. Look up at the ceiling and come back. And your other elbow toward your other hip. And just going back and forth. Try not to pull your head where your vision is now toward your pelvis. Lift your eyes, sight toward the ceiling so that you're sure that you're resting your head on your hands instead of cranking on your neck. Find your breathing. Find the breath at every step of the way. Where do you like to exhale? Where do you like to inhale? I like to inhale as I come back neutral. Exhale as I go to the side. And then maybe make sure you're ending on the side you did not begin at. And then just lie down on the floor. You can bend your knees if that's more comfortable. Just have a moment of release. See if you can feel the vertebrae melt, all the spaciousness between your vertebrae getting broad. Spread your spine out. Deep inhales, expand your belly so your obliques get a little bit of a stretch just by breathing. And then let's go ahead and come to be on your side. So lie down on your right side. Support underneath your head with your forearm. You're going to bend your knees to a 90-degree angle or a little bit less. Your hips, you're going to bend your femur bones at your hip joint 90-degree angles or a little less. Your knees can be more flexed than that. I think most of you have done this with me. Hand comes up onto your head, and we're going to inhale and lift the feet and the chest. Exhale and come back down. The knees stay on the ground. Find your breath. This is a great way to integrate the obliques with the quadratus lumborum, the deepest low back muscle, all of which are really where you want the energy of twists to originate from. I like to inhale on my way down and exhale on my way up. Let's do 2 more. Make sure your neck is not doing the work here. And then let's relax. And we're gonna come over onto the other side. So just roll over onto your left. Support underneath your head with your arm. The other hand is gonna come up on top of your head. And you know, if you have a shoulder that doesn't like this, you can do this with your hand down. It's not essential. This is just to kind of keep you structurally aligned, but it's not an essential piece of the pose. So your knees can flex 90 or less. Your hips can flex 90 or less. And then we're going to exhale on the way up, inhale on the way down. Notice if this side feels like, oh, I got this, or is it, oh, I don't feel as familiar on this side. So just notice where you're patterning. Everybody's got patterning of how they like to move. You know, a lot of times we can twist deeper on one side than another based on, you know, what we do with our bodies all day long. So the knees stay down, the feet are up. Feel the side of your body. Try to let the neck be as soft and neutral as possible in this posture. Let's do 1 or 2 more. I wasn't counting, so I have no idea where we're at, if it feels the same to you as the other side. All right, and then we're going to come back up into dog pose. So spread out the hands and the feet. Feel the length of the body. Breathe deeply. Let the spine stretch. Lots of room. Inhale, lift your right leg up in the air. Exhale and bring that foot forward. Shorten up your stance so that you're not in a long lunge. Inhale and come on up to stand. Blocks, you can use 1, you can even use 2 if you want. You can stack them like this so that one's on top of the other. So you get to decide what you need. Find your breath. Inhale, reach the arms up to the sky. This time we're going to put our hand on our hip. Right hand on hip, left hand stretches forward. Bring your hand down onto the block or blocks. However you best work. So height helps. It keeps the spine growing long. Extend the spine on your inhales. Use all the muscular strength you just cultivated on your exhales. See if you can feel that the core of the body is where the movement is coming from. The breath is where the movement is coming from. The exhales twist you, the inhales lengthen you. Keep the hips square, reaching that right hip back, inner spiral the legs, pubic bone passing through. Find your breath. Stay grounded through your big toe. Notice when you do this well, there's so much space for your spine. It's not compressive for your discs to twist this way. And then come back around. Walk your back foot forward. Inhale for a halfway lift. Get your spine growing. Step your other foot back. Short stance. Find your breathing. Put your blocks however you like them to be. Come on up when you're ready. A little bit of a hack. You can take your foot out to the side more so your pelvis has a broader base. Just see what works for you. Inhale, reach the arm up to the sky. Find the extension. Come forward. Folding forward. Bring the hand onto the block, wherever it may be, at whatever height it may be. Feel the inner spiral of the legs. Pass the pubic bone through. Feel that nice little neutral curve in your lumbar spine. Extend the spine. Find your twisting happening on your exhales with all that core support you've cultivated. Keep inner spiral of that front leg. Pull the hip back, and if you tend to hike the hip out, some people do that, they kind of like hike the hip out like this. Draw the hip back in so you're lined up. Keep breathing. Shoulders away from the ears, heads of the arm bones moving back. The twist comes from the core and the breath. Inhale, lengthen, exhale, twist. All right, and then let's go ahead and come back. Dog pose, hands on the ground. Lift that left leg up in the air. Place your foot down onto the ground. Bend both knees. Draw the knees back into the hips. Help the pelvis draw back. And then let's come down onto all fours. Have a little bit of a cat-cow, any kind of movement that feels good in your spine. And then we're going to come to sit on a blanket underneath our left sit bone. Your feet are going off to the right. I find this to be a very healthy twist. So here we are down now in some seated twisting postures. And if you're a little vulnerable and think, I don't know about these seated twists after everything Jenny just said, this is a good one to try because the pelvis gets to move with instead of the pelvis being super grounded. It just has a little bit more fluidity to it, so it's a little safer. Feel your hand. If you're up high on the blanket, you might need a block for your hand behind you. Feel the lift of your spine. Use that hand to help kickstand you upward. Reach the arm in the air. Take a deep breath. And then we get to put our hand to the outside of the knee. Palm in or palm out. Move the shoulder blade down. Notice if you have pushed your low back way into a deeper arch than is neutral, find neutral. Okay, drop the opposite sit bone, your right sit bone down as you twist right. Find your breath. Inhale, spine lengthens. Exhale, obliques twist you. Now with your head, you can spin all the way. You can even turn your eyes. Follow the twist. Revolve. What are you turning toward? And then if you want, you can always do a little secondary twist and turn your head to look back over your right shoulder. And then come back to center. Take the blanket underneath your right sit bone now. The feet are off to the left. Your left sit bone's kind of hanging down in that pocket, so the pelvis, you're not starting like this. You want to have some balance. That's why you have the blanket underneath your sit bone. Feel the length of your spine. Hand behind you on block or floor. Reach the arm up. Find your twist. Palm out, palm down, whichever feels comfortable. The shoulders drop, the collarbone's broad. Feel that scaption of the shoulder blades hugging against the rib cage. Start to check in with the low back. Is it overarched? Do you need to compensate just a little bit to feel your natural neutral curves? Find your breath. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, twist. Obliques twist you. You know, you hear people say that twists wring out the spine and wring out your internal organs. I don't know what to say about that, but you can feel how the work of the obliques gives pressure to the internal organs and releases it. So I think of it less like a wringing out and more like a massage. Come back around, bringing lots of blood flow to your internal organs and to your nerve roots and your discs. I mean, there's so much movement happening in this area of your body. It's got to bring a lot of good stuff. Okay, let's come out. Now this is the fullest twist that we will do today. So you can be on the edge of a blanket and you can back away from this any bit that you want. You can choose to do this with your legs straight and with your right leg straight and your left leg crossed over. You can also tuck that foot next to you like this if you prefer to get a little work in the hips at the same time. So choose your variation. Be up on a blanket if you need it. I'm going to do the straight leg variation. Feel the hook here. So you can either hook your forearm around your knee. This is a little safer, a little bit more gentle than the fuller version, which is to lift your elbow to the outside of the knee. So you get to decide how far you want to go. Back to that point of leverage, bone on bone. You can very much twist more than your body is ready for. So we're very ready for this twist. We've done a lot to prepare for it. So let yourself be in the deeper variation if your body is okay with that. And you can back away by putting your hand or forearm around your knee as well. Come forward onto the front edge of your sit bones. Feel the neutral curve in your back, not over rounded or under rounded. Feel the length of the spine. Twist with your exhales. Use your hand behind you to remind the spine to stay long. Keep your breath deep and full. Can you feel that sense of massaging? Visualize your spine inside your vertebrae. Visualize your discs. Visualize your nerve roots. Visualize your internal organs. Visualize your lungs. Let everything have all this pumping and moving with the breath. All right, and then come back round again. Long spine, unwind, switch legs. Try to do the same thing on this leg. So one thing that happens often is people do this, they kind of like cross this leg way over. Keep this leg neutral. If you have a hard time crossing this leg over, you can do this pose with your foot uncrossed. You know, there's lots of ways to twist. There's so many different ways to twist. So this is just one choice. But if you need a different choice, you can take your leg and not turn it over top the other. Find your breath. Decide what kind of arm hold you're going to get. Feel the front of your sit bones, beyond them. Feel the neutral curve of the back. Feel the length of the spine. Visualize all of this and breathe your way into your obliques. Breathe your way into your twisting. The hand behind you supports you. Turn. Don't forget that your head and your eyes are part of your twisting. So as you turn your head, turn your gaze all the way as well. Deep breaths. Fill up your lungs. Empty things out. All right, now let's go ahead and come back around again. Okay, come out of the posture. Don't resist the urge to bend forward just yet. First, we're going backwards. Come onto your back. Put your feet down. Once again, spread your spine. Okay, feel free to do a little pelvic rocking if you do need like a cat-cow kind of vibe. And then we're going to grab a block. Passively, you can totally do this actively with no block. You get to just choose, but we're going to do bridge pose, supported with a block or no block. When you come into this posture, make sure if you're using a block, your sacrum's fully supported, so the block is not narrow against your sacrum, but broad underneath your whole pelvis. Allow your pelvis, which, you know, we didn't focus very much today on what happens in your pelvis during twisting. I had your attention more in your torso, but a lot of times when you twist, you know, your sacroiliac joints can kind of get a little offline. So this is a great pose to do to kind of put the puzzle pieces of your sacrum back together again. Find your breath, whether you're doing the pose very actively or whether you're doing the pose passively. You decide. Find the deep breaths. Find the symmetry that's here. And then when you're ready to come out, if you're using a block or maybe a blanket, whichever you have, some firmness on the low height underneath your pelvis. And now we're going to bring our legs straight up in the air. So this also can kind of set the pelvis in a different way than bridge pose. The weight of our femur bones kind of get heavy in our pelvis, letting us kind of ground through the pelvis after all the twisting. So feel the symmetry. Breathe your way here, inhaling and exhaling. All right, and then you can be on the block and bring your knees to your chest, or maybe you want to come off the blanket or block and bring your knees to your chest. Okay, so very simple rocking. If you feel inclined, take the last couple of minutes before Shavasana to follow your impulses. So you might be inclined to do some happy baby poses. You might be inclined to do a reverse pigeon pose and stretch your hip a little bit. You might be inclined to tuck in. You might be inclined to rock this way, long ways in your spine. So however you are inclined, you can even come into cloud pose. I don't have room, but you could come into cloud pose if you want. So you find you do you. Maybe you want to be on your back in Baddha Konasana, Supta Baddha Konasana. So whatever your body's calling for, it's important to start trusting your body instead of always relying on a sequence that's kind of spelled out for you. sometimes it's really, really helpful to follow the impulses of the body. The more we do that, the more our interoception, that sense of self-knowing on the inside, grows. It's like any muscle. The more you use it, the bigger it gets. So if you're, and that doesn't mean you always have to just kind of like not listen to a sequence, but it means even within a sequence, is something not quite right for you? Do you need to modify something? When we start to really trust and listen to our body in this way, we grow tremendously in our practice. So let's find our way into Shavasana when you're ready. There's no rush. If you're still working with some things, keep working with some things. But when you're ready, begin to lie down. Find that sense of settling, letting the spine find its space again. So feeling that sense of spreading the vertebrae out, feeling the sense of spaciousness in your discs. If you need support underneath your knees or your shins up on a couch, make sure you are very comfortable. Once you're there, melt your eyes, melt your shoulders, feel your jaw and the base of your skull relax. The brain can kind of recede backwards toward the back brain. Deep, full breaths. Feel a sense of symmetry with your limbs, where you've placed your limbs. Feel the breath traveling through your spine. Soft, soft belly. Heavy, heavy limbs. Keep breathing.
And deepen our breathing again. Full deep inhale. Complete long exhale. Start to move your body in any way that feels good to you. Can stretch and move. And eventually stretch your arms up over your head and feel the big long spine. And then as you're ready, tuck your knees into your chest, maybe chin up too. And roll over onto your side and come on up to sit. Find a moment of ease. Notice the spine again. Notice if there's a little fatigue. Let's bring our hands together and remember our intentions. What are we moving toward? Let's move that energy outward toward others. So offer your love, your care, your attention. Namaste. Namaste. Thank you, everyone. So glad you're here.